When we started LCC Connect in 2022, our aim was to create a podcast platform that connects our college with the community and our community with the college. Since then, we've expanded to offer more than 25 podcasts, all of which are hosted by members of Lansing Community College or community activists. This is Daedalian, General Manager for LCC Connect, and on this episode of Behind the Connection, I'm going to be talking with Bob Garrett. He has a new podcast on the way called Tales from the LCC Archives. It explores the history and background of Lansing Community College, and it's going to be premiering on LCC Connect along with most major streaming platforms on Tuesday, October 22nd. Hi, Bob. Thanks for joining me, and welcome to Behind the Connection. Let's get started off by finding out how long it is that you've worked here at LCC.
Since November of last year, I started right after Thanksgiving in 2023.
Yeah, standard job, I just applied for the job kind of situation or something different?
Well, I had actually been with the Archives of Michigan, that's the state of Michigan's archives, for 23 years, and I enjoyed it, but I was looking for a change. I saw this job here, and the idea of sort of coming in and being able to be a little more in charge of the program and being able to build it and having that freedom and a little more responsibility, it really appealed to me, and it still really appeals to me. Because I had been in the Archives of Michigan for a long time, and it was time for a change. It was time for a new challenge.
I assume the Archives of Michigan, that's a bigger facility, bigger staff?
Yes to both, yes.
Yeah. How is it just you, or are there others that work with you?
Here? Mm-hmm. I am the college archivist, but I will say that Linnea Knapp, the records information specialist, was in charge of the archives before I came.
Gotcha.
She was a records manager, like I said, records information specialist. She does a lot of records management. So by me being here, it was just a lot for one person.
Yeah. But
I do still consult with her, and we talk now and then. I also have to put a shout out to, Ricky Reynolds also works with me. She's a librarian here, but she is also has an archive certificate and has been doing some hours in the archives, and she's been very helpful.
Gotcha. I think most people would know what an archivist is just by the name of it, but give an explanation of what it is and what exactly like a day for you might be.
Okay. You'd be surprised actually how many people don't know what an archives is, or what an archivist is, because I do get that a lot. But I think one of the best ways I've described it, and a colleague of mine described it this way once, and I really liked it, so I'm sort of stealing it. But an archivist is somebody who reads dead people's mail. Yeah.
Elaborate. You've got to elaborate on that.
Yeah, probably I do. I will say, especially for college archives, I guess it's more likely not somebody's mail. It's probably going to be more often. It's going to be like files that you see in the office, older historic documents.
Yeah,
often. Although nowadays we get more and more into the 21st century, we're going to be collecting more and more digital materials as well. But we're talking, in the cases of an institution like this, office files, maybe meeting minutes, for example, reports. Correspondence. I think those are probably the three most likely information that you'd find in an office. And sometimes too, we would take some private materials if they have if they're meaningful to the history of LCC. For example, somebody who had worked for the LCC for a long time, who has a lot of materials relevant to their time here, we would probably be interested in taking that.
Do we have a pretty substantial filing area? Is there a lot of files? And what exactly would that look like? If I was to walk in, what would I see?
Well, we are not...
As far as the physical files go, anyway.
Physical files, I will say that at the moment we don't have a public area. So we don't have the pickup. But if anybody wants to see anything, please contact me. I see we have my contact information.
Yeah, you're always throwing that down. Yeah. Like when you did your recordings, you were very much adamant about getting that out there to let people know that you want to get some information,
right?
Which we'll include in the show notes for this, but we'll always have that in the show notes as well for Tales from the LCC Archive.
Right. What you wouldn't necessarily see in there is boxes with files inside. I mean, quite frankly, it's
okay.
The boxes, though, we're looking at acid-free materials, acid-free boxes, acid-free folders that keeps the material from aging as fast. It slows down the aging of the material.
Okay.
Slow down. It keeps when you have acid-free folders, acid-free boxes, it sort of prevents a lot of the interaction with chemicals in the air. Preserves them a little longer.
So what you do has probably even changed. How many years have you been in some capacity an archivist?
28. Well, 28 professionally, but I did some work as a student too, so I'd say probably about 30 actually.
So I would assume that the digital side of archiving has grown quite a bit since you got started.
Yes, you would absolutely assume correctly.
Yeah,
There has been a whole. There have been more measures taken to preserve digital material, and I kind of got into this when electronic records was starting to be a big hot topic, and it was almost like you go to conferences and everyone's, what do we do about the electronic records? And there was a lot of concern, and we have made efforts to deal with that a lot more. There's special software, for example, now that is available to digitize, to do this proper measures on. You sort of, what you do is they'll do like what they call a fixity check that sort of like kind of freezes it in a way in time. And this is the time this is how it is, that idea, keeping it like a snapshot.
Right. From an audio perspective, and being an audio guy myself, I would imagine that's got to be a plus, even though it's almost like it's an extra step, it seems like. Because I would assume a lot of the times you've already got the physical item. I think of, though, the past of radio and how we used to have reel-to-reel, and we used to have CDs, and everything's pretty much digital now,
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of those things where if you didn't have that digital aspect, like it pretty much keeps it forever.
Right.
I mean, assuming the internet doesn't ever blow up anyway.
Well, we hope it keeps it forever.
And we hope the internet doesn't blow up.
This is the thing.
We are going to be a confused world when that happens.
Well, we're always, in my point of view, we're always just keep doing the best we can. I mean, it's what you do and with the best of our ability. The one thing about the internet, about all the digital materials, you're still talking about machine-dependent, machine-readable material. You need a machine to read that. And then you have the thing about, technology can become obsolete. Now, so far, we have the cloud and everything in the cloud, and we can get it, and we're getting better about migrating formats and such.
Sure.
But, there's no guarantee of anything.
No, and I completely understand what you're saying about the obsolete, different technology, especially when the fact that I've still got an 8-track of Kiss at home that I never get to listen to anymore.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, but it sits on the shelf. It looks cool, so whatever.
Yeah, no, and I've had materials come in just in my career, those floppy disks and all like that.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Even find something to read it becomes harder.
Yeah, and it's even got to the point that computers a lot of the times don't even include, a CD or a DVD player. It's just not even included anymore.
No.
And I remember there was a point where we were archiving stuff here at the station on CDs and DVDs and anything we could. And then all of a sudden those went away, and it's like, okay, well, now what do we do?
Right.
So as far as the digital versus physical side goes, which one do you prefer to utilize the most as an archivist?
That I personally prefer, I would have to say paper, because, like I said, it's nice having that physical sensation. And if there's something reliable, it's right there, it's right in front of you. There's the tactile aspect of it.
I've heard that before.
Nice. Yeah. So I can't help preferring that. I like to think I'm a realist, and I realize that the digital is certainly not going away, and we have material that's being born digital. Not necessarily going. We have to deal with that.
I get you.
So you can get
to
it.
Yeah. So a young Bob Garrett was he going, you know what I want to be when I grow up? An archivist. Was he saying that?
He was not. I don't know. I didn't really have a clear idea about what I wanted to do, but then I got really interested in history, and I wanted to do something with that.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to teach. Majored in history as an undergrad, and then you learn about archives probably around that time. But I didn't really see it as an option at first. I actually figured, well, I guess I'll be a teacher, but a couple education classes, and I for secondary. And I just thought, I don't think this is just not for me.
Mm-hmm.
God bless the teachers. We need them. But I don't think that was something that I would have been good at. And I wasn't quite sure where to go from there. Basically, what happened is after undergrad, I could finish my history degree, didn't know quite what to do with it. I ended up in Milwaukee because I'm from Wisconsin. And my uncle invited me to come and live with him until I figured things out. Milwaukee, figured the job market would be larger. And it turned out the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee had an archives program. I started looking into this, and I got a double master's in history and library science, and figuring the library science, if the archives doesn't work out, I can fall back on library science.
Yeah, so it's interesting too that doing what you're doing, you're talking about history and a lot of the history of Lansing Community College, and you would almost think like it would be under a different department, but your role in what you do is under what department here at the college?
I am in the Department of Information Security.
Yeah.
And again, the records information specialist is in the same department, and this is because the college recognizes that records are important, and we need to keep them secure. And this is part of information security, is keeping control of the records, both that we generate, and making sure that everything goes to the proper place.
Yeah. Okay, so the show's called Tales from the LCC Archives. It gets started October 22nd. It'll be streamed on LCC Connect as well as most major streaming platforms on October 22nd. That's a Tuesday. And nobody has heard it yet. So if you were to describe it to somebody who's never heard it, which is most everybody other than you and me,
right?
How would you describe the show to somebody?
I want to take a look at LCC's history, and also a little bit about, I've been musing a little bit about the keeping of history, maybe a little bit.
Okay.
And I think I want to delve a little bit into that. My first episode, I talk about the history of the LCC Archives itself. Mm-hmm. And as you know, the second episode, I delved into an incident in LCC history, an aspect of LCC's history.
Okay.
And another thing I want to do is I want to interview people. I want to bring on guests. I want to talk to people who have a long connection with LCC and talk about what they've witnessed since they've been here.
Okay. So what exactly got you wanting to do this podcast?
As I said, I've always liked history, and I like sharing those stories. Mm-hmm. And I have. That's always been one of the most fun parts of my job. When I worked at the Archives of Michigan, I was an editor on the publication we did there, where we would write some stories from Michigan's history, and that was one of the most fun things.
So really, your love of history itself.
Yeah. Yes.
So coming back around to that again, what exactly are you hoping people are going to take away from this?
I hope that maybe I can get them to think a little bit about history. One of the things I like to do when I tell stories is kind of to put things in a greater context, maybe make them a little more relevant, maybe get you to see a piece of the past or a piece of things that you maybe hadn't considered, and maybe can tie it to some other things. Maybe if I do my job well, I'll get you interested in a topic, maybe get you thinking about different aspects of it. Mm-hmm. Maybe if I'm really, really good, I'll make you want to know more.
You're kind of like a sort of like a history detective, yeah.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. Sure.
And I mean, have you found situations outside of LCC, if need be? If you can say something at LCC, great. But has there ever been anything where you had to figure out, like almost follow a trail to figure out more information?
Oh, yes. What's a good example? Because there have been a lot of stuff like that where I will follow little breadcrumbs through history. I guess one thing, when I was at the Archives of Michigan and I sort of got interested in the archives history, the history itself of that agency, and I would go through the records of the Michigan Historical Commission, and I would find little things in there. But sometimes, if you do a lot of archival research, sometimes you'll see something that'll make you wonder, and you can kind of read between the lines, and you dig into this a little more and dig into newspaper articles. I got interested in Prohibition for one thing like this, and I started kind of looking into the Prohibition era, the Lansing area, and I ran across an account of a lady named Etta Mae Miller who got life in prison for selling I think it was a quart of whiskey or a pint of whiskey. Might have just been a pint. Yeah, an undercover policeman. And I had to dig into that, and I couldn't really find a lot about her. I had to go through. I went through the court records at the Archives of Michigan to find more about her court case and what happened and all of this. And this was sort of towards the end of Prohibition, and one thing is because they just weren't stopping the bootleggers. They just weren't stopping, anything. So of course, what they decided was, well, I guess we just have to make the punishments worse. And Michigan actually passed a law that your fourth liquor offense, you'd get life imprisonment. And the person this happened to was this Etta Mae Miller from Lansing. She got her fourth offense, and turned out she was a mother with 4 children whose father was also already in jail. And this became a big thing for the what you call the anti-prohibition or the wet forces, pointing to this case like, look what we've stooped to. You're so obsessed with this alcohol law that you're going to throw this poor woman in jail who has 4 kids, right? For their life imprisonment. Yeah. And, then from there, I went through a lot of the court cases that we had in the Archives of Michigan, and I went through a lot of the newspaper articles just trying to find more about her. Mm-hmm. And I was able to follow the case and some of the things said about it. And it was a really interesting case. And I did tell that story in the Archives of Michigan publication Trace, and it was really one that I was kind of happy to get out there because that was a story that I'd sort of been dying to tell for a while.
That is an interesting story. So what's kind of cool about doing this podcast and your job, I think you're probably one of the only people that could actually genuinely say in some way, every single time you're doing it, it is kind of like building your archive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I could say that. I'm already planning to download our episodes and have those. And
so I'm just saying, it's like almost doing another part of your job, one way or the other. I mean, because everybody here, kind of does their thing on a volunteer basis. A lot of them connect to their job, but in some ways, you're building content for your job.
Honestly, I will say just in relation to that I do view one part of my job, I feel, is to promote the history of the college, which I think is also, obviously helps promote the college, promote awareness of the college, but in my mind also sort of helps to promote a community identity for those of us who work here, go to school here, make us associate with the college, and gets people also to be more interested in that history. And I think the more you spread LCC's history and the word of mouth, the more people become aware of this archives, this resources there, and the more they might want to know information, and hopefully the more they'll contact me, which in turn will spread more of LCC's history and keeps that history alive.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what do you find the most rewarding about what you do?
Sharing stories, obviously, and people telling me about the stories. That's one. And another one is when I get questions, reference questions, and I help people find something, and they're so happy often that they found something that in some cases they were probably didn't have much hope would still be there. A photograph of somebody who worked here a long time ago, for example, information on an old professor or an old course or something, or maybe just a photo of them when they were in a play or a performance or something and they didn't know existed. And I mean, it's wonderful. People are really grateful often when you find that for them.
Gotcha. Well, expanding beyond LCC, expanding beyond the states, worldwide, what's your favorite piece of history?
That is kind of a hard one.
I know it is. That's why I threw it at you.
And I've gone through a lot of...
What comes to mind? What comes to mind quickest?
Obviously, I've already said the Prohibition era. I sort of got focused on, but I've also say at different times in my life, I've been studying. I've been really focused on different aspects of history. I went through a period where I was really interested in the Civil War. Did a lot of research on that. Did a lot of research on Prohibition. But I think as I've gotten into archives, I'm going to go for my favorite is probably local history, because local history to me brings a lot of the national history home, and sometimes vice versa. So I think I'm going to say right off the bat that I've been, in the 24 years now that I've been in Lansing, I've been digging into Lansing's history, and I really enjoy it. And it's kind of brings history to life when you see that history in your neighborhood or in your college or in your community.
Awesome. Well, very glad that you are a part of the Lansing area, and I'm glad you are a part of Lansing Community College. And I am most grateful for the fact that you've started this podcast. Looking forward to it. And thanks for coming in and joining me here on Behind the Connection. It's Bob Garrett. He's the host of a new show called Tales from the LCC Archives, and that is going to be premiering on LCC Connect on October 22nd. Bob, before you go, I do have one final question for you.
Okay.
I can't tell you what it is because I have to hit the rando question generator. Are you ready?
Okay, sure.
What are you a natural at? What are you a natural at other than archiving stuff and putting it all away?
I guess this goes with the history point of view, but amazing the stuff that I kind of remember sometimes. One of the reasons I'm good at history is because I'm very good at dates.
Okay.
But I've also been good at memorizing a number of things, and this is where my wife and I especially get along really well because she's good at this too, this historical data. There was one time when the Emancipation Proclamation, this is when she and I, around the time we just started dating, so I think around 2011, they were showing the Emancipation Proclamation at the Henry Ford Museum.
Okay.
And we were waiting in line, and it was such a long line, we were trying to amuse ourselves while we were there. So we took turns going through all the presidents of the United States and the years they were in office, because we both knew that. And then she did the kings and queens of England, starting, I think, with Edward the Confessor, was it? And then the dates, she's really into English history, and she knew him. And she finished all that. We still had some time. So I started listing all the winners, all the Best Picture winners at the Oscars, beginning from the beginning all the way up, which I can still recite.
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes I start doing that, and I'll do like 3 or 4, and people will be like, okay, I believe you, that's enough. But I can actually do it.
Good memory then. Nothing wrong with that.
For some things, I should say.
And you do remember the wife's birthday, right?
The what birthday?
The wife's birthday, right?
Oh, yes, I do.
Good move.
There's a long story, well, too long for that. You're too late for that. But basically...
Well, thanks for diving into that there, Bob.
This is LCC Connect.
Voices.
Vibes.
Vision.